morning, Adolfo. How are you?
Fine, and you, Nima?
I'm doing great. I'm in beautiful West Palm Beach, Florida, and I'm
Great.
actually here at the Consciousness Conference here with Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton.
Perfect. Wow. Okay.
I stepped out to join to launch this and to start a conversation. But there's some amazing conversations that are going on in the conference right now, and oh my God, you should feel the energy here. We have the Sputnik running in the center. We have the Sputnik on the stage, and we're monitoring the entire session for all the speakers. And we'll share all that information with you guys after the conference. Super, super excited to be here. All right, welcome aboard, guys. Welcome. There's Christopher joining us. Swanti, Joyti is here. Welcome, guys. Let's start a chat so we can start communicating in the chat. If you guys want to put in where you're from, where you're joining us. Okay. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll let people in as they join. I know there's a lot of material we want to cover, and we want to get right into it. So today's session, we have put together this beautiful session and invited Dr. Konstantin Protkov, Dmitry Orlov, and Adolfo Rodriguez to join us. And Dr. Protkov, as you all know, is the inventor of the Bio-Well, and he's the lead researcher in this field. And he has done so many amazing travels around the world, especially in South America, in Russia, in Egypt, a lot of places that he's been. And he has tons of data that we can't wait to get a glimpse of the information that he has collected over the years. And Dmitry Orlov is an extremely amazing person. He is another top researcher in this field. And I believe he's the co-founder or co-inventor of the Sputnik, but correct me if I'm wrong. So he's done some amazing research in the field as well, and his explanations are extremely powerful and extremely detailed when it comes to understanding the energy of space. And he does research even on, they just updated the Sputnik with a different attachment that you can actually insert the attachment into the ground and be able to pick up information about what's going on, within the Earth, within the vicinity of our environments. So that's extremely exciting to do some research with that. I'm actually headed to Hawaii in a few days to do research in the Big Island around the volcanoes. So I'm going to collect a lot of nice data there and make sure to share it with everyone. So one of the main reasons I wanted to do this summit was because it's such a new field about the research that we're doing regarding the energy of environments, and it's an extremely powerful field because we have a lot of research from different independent groups in different countries that are actually showing and proving that how the energy of environment or space, or even like where our houses are located or how they're situated, and that location will make a lot of difference in the wellness of a person. So in Brazil, there was a lot of research done that for example, a couple, a husband and a wife, that would sleep in the same room, and for some unfortunate circumstances, the husband would probably would pass away, and the wife would miss the husband. She would sleep in his spot. And, this could be like the husband would pass away from a specific type of cancer. And when the wife would sleep in his spot and, continually stay there for a few years, then she would develop the same type of cancer, and she would pass away from the same thing. So this started that we wanted to, our group in Brazil wanted to do research, and that's an independent group that they were able to realize that by the places that people are sleeping and what's happening on the underlayment of the crust of the earth and the different pathways, that there's a different energy that gets accumulated in specific areas. And now this energy can be positive or it can be negative. So, it just depends on, for example, if we are staying in a room that are sleeping in a location that we're constantly being depleted in energy, then imagine if you're doing this, for 8-9 years, 8 hours a day, then it will have extremely severe side effects into our energetic field, into our energy body, and eventually into our physiological system. So I wanted to used this summit to shed some light about how we take measurements of the energy of space in different areas and what do they really mean, because we really don't have a large database of data for the Sputnik and the energy of space or the environment to be able to really make sense of what we are collecting. So this is one of the reasons I wanted to start continuing this summit, and this is just our first one, to be able to take advantage of a collective information and be able to speed up the process of understanding how our environment gets influenced and how our environment can influence our wellness and our energy. And I think that would be extremely powerful for the wellness of Earth, our environment, and ourselves. So I've done a small share of my research that I would love to share with you guys today. And I'm opening up, I don't have conclusions on a lot of them because, I'm picking up data that I can make some comparisons and make some sense of specific areas based on elevation and the history of the environments that I have been. But on a large scale, I just, we're not there to be able to make really as much sense as, for example, we can make with the Bio-Well and the flow of energy in the human body. So imagine for 20 years, we had to do research and collect information in order to get Bio-Well into where it is today, to be able to make sense and, to generate all this amazing information and help so many people to understand their the flow of energy in their bodies and to understand, where they have blockages to be preventative. So now imagine if we could collectively do this research together and bring this research and make sense of, imagine if you do this, instead of 20 years, if you have a bunch of people that are doing this, we can do this in a shorter amount of time. And we can make sense of how to become a preventative for the health of our environments and the Earth. So I think that's what really gives me the energy to want to do this and to do this research. And I've done some travels to Hawaii. I've gone to Machu Picchu. And I've been to Chichen Itza around the pyramid there. And this is some of the information that I've collected. And I'm a very curious person. So I love to understand how elevation influences the energy of the environments as far as the intensity, the area, and the total joules of energy goes. And of course, we need to pay a lot of attention to area deviation because that gives us a lot of information about the coherence and the chaotic information within our environments. So I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to take you guys through some of my scans, and let's together make sense of what's going on here. And I'll try to do my best to explain what I'm finding here. So I also do a lot of research with tachyon energy, and that has been my field of research for the last 5 years. And I work with a team of researchers here in Orlando, Florida, and we have discovered some really amazing information and how to actually take tachyon energy and concentrate it within objects. And that's something that I will share with you as well today, because that's a very interesting research that we've actually launched a research and development center in Orlando, Florida, that is working with Dr. Krakow himself. And what we're doing there is collecting this information to see how different materials or different products can even influence the energy of space. So first, I really enjoyed my trip to Machu Picchu. So I want to go and share a little bit of information of the different scans that I collected from there. So one thing that was really interesting to me, and one thing that I was there to do this research was I wanted to understand how elevation influences the energy within environments. So I went to, in Machu Picchu, there is at the bottom of the mountain, there's a river with some huge rocks that have fallen over the years from the mountain. And the energy is very, I feel it is very coherent there. I'm very energy sensitive person. So when I go to different areas, I can feel the energy because it influences my mood almost. So I went to the bottom of the river in Machu Picchu, and these were the measurements that I was able to collect there. So when you look at the energy of the total energy that was there in that environment, the maximum energy was around 1.93 joules of energy. And the minimum was at 1.55. So that's something that I pay attention to when I do this research, to understand how the photons and the environment are influencing the energy within that environment. So that was at the time, it didn't make any sense to me, because just by taking that measurement by itself, it doesn't really make sense, and we have to make a comparison to something else in order to make sense of it. So the intensity of light was around 75.9, and the pixels of photons within that environment were around at maximum 6,540. So now let's go ahead and compare this scan to then I went to the top of the mountain, and I wanted to see what's going on there. So now what was really interesting is that when I went to the top of the mountain, there were two different spots. So as soon as you arrive, we took the bus up, and like the bus station, that's like the area underneath that you have to check in, and from there you can go in and start taking the tour and climbing up the mountain. So I wanted to take measurements on different levels and understand, okay, if you're at this elevation, does the way that they have created the buildings and the material that they've used in creating the different rooms, and they pay attention to a lot of duality and how the sun rises and like the season. So there's a lot of knowledge that goes into creation of their cities and like their rooms. So what I wanted to see was that, does the way that they have created these rooms influence the amount of energy? So after the river, my next scan was right at the top, which is this scan over here. And once you look at these values now, you can see that the energy value went up to 5 joules at the maximum. So that was a huge difference going from, and if you do a comparison here and take a look at the two values, that will shed a lot of light of how that energy gets influenced. Dimitri is sending a message. Yes, Dimitri, where are you? Let me answer him real quick. So what this means, and I would love to for other researchers here to shed more light on this, and if you guys can take notes as I'm going through these, and we can have a conversation on it. So we can clearly see how the area got influenced and how the intensity of light got influenced. So the orange is at top of the mountain, and the purple is at the bottom of the river. So now we see how much energy was deviation is that when we're looking at the value of the top of the mountain, we can see that it was a lot more chaotic. So when we have a higher value reading on the area deviation, that's to my understanding is an indication of level of chaos within that environment. But once that energy drops, then we see that how that it's almost like the geometry of that environment is changing based off the whatever that's influencing that with that environment. So now when we're looking at the top of the mountain, there's more chaos there, from my understanding here. But when we're looking at the bottom of the mountain, the energy was a lot more coherent. And if you think about it, when you're standing by a river, it's a very relaxing experience. So I feel like the flow of the energy, like the flow of the movement of the water, that has to do with making the energy more coherent. And at the top of the mountain, then there's a lot more of different factors that are influencing the energy of environment and the way that they have created these buildings. I feel like that is what could influence. And also, we know that there is a lot of history in Machu Picchu, and that was another assumption that I had, that that could be the energy that because of the, the possible chaos and whatever happened there caused the distinction of people that were there, could also be the reason that there was a lot more chaotic energy at the top of the mountain. So open to discussion. I would love to see what other researchers have to say about that. So let's go back and share some more information about some other areas that I have collected data. So that was a Machu Picchu experiment. And like let's add the waterfall. So then there was a waterfall that was close to that area. And I wanted to see, how does a waterfall influence energy? So then let's get all of them and kind of take a look at that as well. So that's top, this is waterfall, and the last one is river. So we see that the top had the most energy. The waterfall had the second amount of energy, because it was, you can see it down here in the energy values too. But then the river had the lowest energy. And if you look at the area intensity, it's respectively the same way. And when we're looking at the area deviation and the level of chaos and coherence within that environment, we can kind of see that the waterfall, as the water is coming down and it's hitting the rocks, you can see that there's a lot more chaotic environments, again, almost matching the energy on top of the mountain. So that was something very interesting to me as well. Now, I also wanted to take some measurements of Death Valley, because there's a lot of information that, a lot of things happen that were that could influence the energy of that environment. So then on this stop, I was inside of a train, but so my environment, I wasn't actually within the environment. I was in the train, so I had to take into account the enclosed vicinity of within the cabin. But this is the environment. This is information that I was able to pick up there, and that's going to be the last, which is the red one. So we can see the intensity was very close to the river, and again, as we come down with elevation, we're coming down, we see the intensity drops, area drops, energy drops. So this is clearly showing us that how, when we go high in elevation, energy increases. And when we come low in elevation, then energy drops. But now, there in Death Valley, you can see the level of chaos. The level of chaos is almost even more on top of this, almost like the highest level of chaos that I could find was in the Death Valley. And that was really interesting as well. And I feel like that could have to do with the history there and the energies that could be residing there as well. So, but one thing that was really interesting to me, that the measurement I took on top of Machu Picchu, so let's go and take the other measurements out and just leave the top, which was almost like 5 joules of energy. And I wanted to make it clear to myself to see, like, was it the way that they create, because they took it, as I said before, they put a lot of science into creating their buildings, and like even the material that they had like quartz within the bricks and everything that would create the walls. Like they would only have 3 windows because of they would say that those are the 3 elements that we have to the Trinity, that we have to respect that. So I wanted to see all of these work that they did. Is that the reason that the energy was so much higher? So now I almost got into trouble for this research. don't try this at home. So I was flying one day, and I was flying back from one of these locations that I was doing research, and I was at a very high altitude. So then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I have my Sputnik with me. I wonder if I can take some measurements right now and to see like how this is like, the highest it gets in altitude. I want to see how it would compare to the measurements that I had in Machu Picchu. So this was a very short experiment before I got interrupted, but but I want to share that with you so you can see if you can make some of it together. I don't even know how they let me to take this Sputnik on the plane, but that's a different story. So now this was on the plane. So let's go ahead and add that in and do a comparison here. Now look at these values. Very similar values. So that kind of, I was very excited about, how much work they put into the duality and how the angles and the way the sun rises and how they're facing their buildings, that I was really hoping that I would get a different kind of measurement. But this reading kind of put that, the only thing that was different was the level of chaos. So on the plane was even more chaotic than on top of the mountain. So, we saw the level of chaos in the river was a lot lower. Now we're coming a little bit higher on top of a mountain, which was about, I think we were at like about 11,000 feet above sea level. And it was very uncomfortable. But plane, that there's even more chaos. So does that mean the higher we go, the more chaos is in the environment? Could that mean that all the electromagnetic fields and everything that's happening like at the bottom, is this all rising to like higher levels? And then when we're taking measurements there, we're kind of like getting this chaotic information that is like radiating from Earth. I don't know. So I would like to do more research to find that out. And if you guys can do more research on that, that'd be cool. So now let's go back and look at some other research that I've done to see what else we can make sense of. So very interesting experiment that I had was in Hawaii. So I went to Hawaii and I was told that there is a space and there's like a sacred area in Hawaii that, and this was in Waikiki. So they were saying that there's some special stones that they've just appeared within this vicinity. And back in the day, in ancient times, all the royalty of the Hawaiian like family, they would go and give birth on these stones. So they call it the birthing stones. And they were saying that when women give birth on these stones, they have no pain. So that was extremely interesting to me. I wanted to understand, like, how could that be possible? How could somebody give birth on a stone without pain? So I took my Sputnik and I went to the location and I wanted to see what kind of information I can pick up just from, I took a measurement from somewhere that was around this vicinity. I wasn't close to the stones. It was like a different rock that I wanted to put this Sputnik on top of the rock. And I wanted to see what kind of information I'm picking up from the energy that's being emanating from this rock. And then I wanted to go on the sacred rocks and then do the same thing with them to see what kind of information I can pick up. So if I can find that research, it would be great. There we go. So this was, so I was doing different measurements like around the hotel, and there was some, there was an area on the beach, and we're staying at a hotel that across the street there was a beach, and they had some sacred stones on the beach as well. That they were saying that there was 3 large stones that they were saying that in the ancient times, I guess this city used to be run by some very powerful healers, and these healers would kind of like be the kings of that city, and they would like rule over people, and it would heal people, that would help people, and they were like extremely powerful, and they created a very beautiful life for the people that were in that area. So when they were dying, they chose specific stones, and that they told their group, their people, that they're transferring their energy to these stones, and that these stones are going to be their protectors, and that for as long as these stones are there, then they'll be thriving and they'll be successful. So that was another research I wanted to do. I wanted to pick up the energy in my hotel room and then go across the street into the area that they were at, and then see like how the energy is different. So let's go first on the experiment that I was talking about the birthing stones. And let's look at these values here. So if you look at these, let's go ahead and compare these values together and then make sense of the information that we're picking up here. But to tell you what happened, and we're going to look at the graphs and take a look, what was really interesting was that when I went on the rocks that were the sacred rocks, comparing it to other rocks, the energy dropped. So the intensity, the energy, everything all of a sudden dropped. So that kind of explained to me that like if the energy is dropping there, it's like they have this suction power that as people are sitting on there, let's go to the compare and kind of take a look. See, so the ones that I was getting closer to the sacred stones, the area and the value of energy they were dropping. So actually this was at the hotel and that was the Hawaii waterfall. So yes, it's these two, the red one and the green one. So the red one was at the stop that I got there, and I wanted to understand like just a regular rock that was around there that wasn't anything specific about it. How does it influence the energy around it within that vicinity? And what I found was that the energy was higher than when I went to the stones that were on the sacred site. Now, that kind of makes sense to me. And there was a person that was there she was a geologist that she approached us and wanted to answer some of the questions. And that I told her my hypothesis that I believe the reason that was happening was that these stones, they have some they have like an absorbent power, that they absorb energy, and she said that I was absolutely dead on with that matter, but I didn't understand how, like what was so specific about these stones that caused the energy to drop. And it was so fantastic the way I found this out, because when I was doing research there, I was putting my laptop on these rocks. And if you notice where your charger gets connected to your laptop, I have a Mac. There's like a magnet there. So when I came home from that research and I came to the hotel and I was looking around, trying to make sense of the data that I'm collecting, all of a sudden I saw that there's a piece of rock that is stuck into my charger. I couldn't put my charger back into my laptop. So I take a look at the rock and I pull it out. It was a magnetic rock. So the magnetic property within those stones, it was causing the energy to drop. And I feel like that was what was helping the women as they were giving birth, because the magnetic power of that was absorbing the energy and allowing them to go into labor a lot easier. So I thought that was extremely cool as well. I wanted to make sure I share that with you. Now let me go to my research about tachyon, because I'm running out of time. I have so much to tell you guys, but it's going to be in different sessions. There's so much research I've done. But let's go back in here, and I want to see there's so many amazing results that we're getting with this research, and I want to make sure that you guys are on board with this. So we created a R&D center in Orlando, Florida, and we do a lot of research with a lot of different companies. So we have done a lot of research, as I told you before, with Verve Technology in Orlando, Florida, and we have done a lot of amazing work creating specific cards that they absorb tachyon energy. Now, we wanted to see how does this influence the energy of space and how to influence people once they come into contact with this, because tachyons are particles that travel faster than the speed of light, and they bring coherence. So what allows a resonance, whenever we put something, we bring something close to tachyon energy, automatically that will go into in a coherent level. So if somebody's chakras are out of balance, when they get introduced to it's like a 0-point energy, that it helps them to kind of like get closer to that the source of consciousness, or the energy pattern. So what we did research was in a room before we do anything to this room. And I want to show you exactly what we did on one specific product that we have launched on Amazon right now. And I just want to share some of the reviews of people that have purchased this product. So you can kind of get a glimpse of what we're looking at here. It would help you a lot to make more sense of the research that we're doing here. So let me share my screen. Amazon.com. And if you just do tag John, please. So this is the product that we just got in a little piece of cardboard and we have tackinized this cardboard. So it's a 4.5 review product on Amazon right now. And you should read the reviews. I mean, people are just putting it in their, keeping it against their face when they have tooth problems and the toothache goes away. They put it on their head when they have headaches, the headache goes away. They put it on their food or water and the food or water taste will change. So after seeing all these amazing reviews, I wanted to see how could we use this information now to change the environment. When I was younger, that people would go, they would travel to like go to sacred spots, and when they would spend time there, then the energy within that space would heal them. So this always made sense to me that there's something in that environment that is influencing that. So I wanted to see if somehow we can replicate this. So now this is the room before we and we took this material and we embedded in all the walls within this facility. So this was the energy that we took before. I'm going to do a comparison, and this is the energy after we work on the energy of space with these particles. So you can clearly see how much energy, the area, intensity, energy, everything improved just by working on these specific particles with different walls that we have in that environment. To 3.43. That's a lot of energy to be able to influence in an environment. Now, we wanted to take this research further and then see how does this really influence people. So if you have some people that have not been introduced to this environment, and we bring them in and they spend time here for, let's say, 20 minutes to an hour, how would that influence their energy? So that's exactly what we did. And I wanted to research with you. So we had a group of people that came there, and we wanted to do before afters on them to really understand like what was happening with them. So let me clear my screen here. And here and the after. So this was the before after for this our first test subject. This was the energy before, it's 56 joules. After went to 58. Energy balance from 96 joules to 99% balance. Now we can look at different sides of this person and then see how like the energy in the front just became a lot more. You see 33 became to 34. And you can see how a lot of overactivity in people, that's what we realized. A lot of overactivity in liver, in kidneys, in prostate, and back. A lot of these overactivities within the energy fields, when people would just sit there and spend time in that room, would remove all of those overactivity from them. So this was the first person that we tested. And like the information would go, you know, in every single level, we could see this difference. So this was like on the energy fields before was at 93, it improved to 95% after spending time in that room. But for some reason, the stress levels immediately after they spend time there just a little bit increases. And I feel like it's almost like the body is going into a detox zone. But the energy improves, balance improves, and even this balance slightly improved. But when we go to these overactivity zones, that's what was really interesting. That when we see this juice, after people spending time in there, it would just remove the shootouts. Like, look at all the shootout we had here in the sacrum, prostate, energy down here in the spine was so low. And just by sitting there, all of these energies would come and would fill all the gaps within the areas that they're missing. Like respiratory system here before was like shooting up, but right after it just like normalized. We had sacrum, prostate normalized. So this was another person. We go to the balance. We see the sympathetic, parasympathetic balance. This was the before, right after. Completely shifts within the autonomic nervous system. And people would feel it. They would come in. We have a lot of energy sensitive people that would come in there, like, oh my God, there is so much energy here. So like Ricardo, he was a shaman that came there and he heard about this and he wanted to see like, you know, what's going on there. So when he came in, I scanned them. This is what we saw with them. Look at the shootout that was one of the indication that maybe the thyroid, the energy of the thyroid is not properly functioning. But then just by sitting there, we can see that all that went away. So if you look at the energy fields here, if I come in here, if you look at the bottom of the screen, right there, it's showing that it was about 7.66 joules of energy there, which, you know, 4 is optimal. Anything above 6, we don't want that. It's too much energy. Too much energy is not always good. Optimal energy is good. So then we come right after, and then it brought it right into 6.03. Still just a tad bit over, but 4 to 6 is optimal. And that was pretty nice to see that. The same way we can see it on the other side. So there was many of these people. We have tested up to 20 people right now, and everybody improves as soon as they sit there, they lean on these walls, and they just spend time in that environment. So I wanted to share, there's a lot more information that I can share with you, but I'm running out of time here. But I just wanted to kind of like spark this idea that, you know, we can really influence the energy of our environments. So the measurement that I did at Chichen Itza, that was about 3 point something joules of energy around the pyramid. And now we have more energy than we had at Chichen Itza within this center that we have influenced energy in the walls. So that's why I'm really excited about these types of research, and there's so many amazing things that we can do to help humanity, to help our environments. And I encourage you to start doing these type of researches and get involved. And I will be sharing with Dr. Krotkov. We want to create a central area that everybody can share their scans, so that together we can make sense of all the information that we're collecting and expedite the process of you know, understanding how we can influence our environments. So with further ado, I want to go ahead and my time is up. Dr. Krotkov is about to start his presentation, and thank you so much for your attention and for being here today and listening to this research. And you can ask me any question. You can email me at nima@gaiahealers.com, and I would love to share my information with you so we can collaborate together. And if you go to lightworkersapp.com, we have a group there that we do research together, and we can all share information to expedite this process. All right, with further ado, I'm gonna invite Dr. Krotkov to take the stage, and I'm gonna ask him to unmute right now. So excited to see Dr. Krotkov here. Good morning or good afternoon, Dr. Krotkov. You're muted. Let me ask you to unmute.
Yes, absolutely. Now I done.
Perfect. Now you're
okay, very good.
so
I adjust. Okay, so okay, here we are. Yes. Okay, hello everybody. It's very good to see you, Nima.
very good
And to see everybody. Yes. Excellent. Very good. I'm happy. I wish I would be physically there, but still it's very good. Absolutely. And very good that you organize this, because again, it's very, very important and very good for everybody to know, to have new knowledge. And tell me what's this here? What's this schedule? What time do I have? Do I have some time, or how do you plan this?
we have 4 or 5 minutes. we're going to do many sessions, so we don't have to share all the information in this summit. I wanted to have like short summits so that everybody can attend and be like bite-sized information so everybody can absorb. So you're at 11:45. Your floor is yours until 12:30, or that's my time, Eastern time. So you have 45 minutes.
Okay. Okay, very good. So then I would like to share some ideas and presentation about our measurement with Sputnik to show people what's the level of knowledge they can get and what's interesting. So let's let me share screen 1 second. I need to switch.
Let me make you the host so you can share your screen.
Wait a minute. Okay. Yes, here we are. And let's share screen. Allow Zoom to share screen. Yes.
You should be able to share. You're the host now.
Yes. Okay. Yes, here we are.
There you go.
Okay, now you can see my screen. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So let's talk about Sputnik and measurement with Sputnik. Okay, so let's, yes, it's here, it should be here. Yes. So we are using Sputnik for many years. I have patent for this device from 90s, and it is based on idea of measurement of 5 elements of nature: fire, earth, water, metal, and wood. That's why using Bio-Well, using Sputnik, we can measure all these elements. And the principle of Sputnik itself, that we have inside the Bio-Well device, we have a resonance contour. So it's like a Tesla coil. But the outside part of this Tesla coil, it is open. That is why when we apply some impulses, very short impulses, to the primary coil, we have a set of impulses of electromagnetic energy, electromagnetic waves distributed in space. So we can tell that this is distribution of standing electromagnetic waves in space. And as you understand, as we apply impulses, then those waves, they come in short impulses as well. And of course, propagation of those impulses in space depends on the environment, in which premises you are you inside, are you outside, and it depends on conductive subjects that we have in this particular area. For example, if we have some person, and we are all conductive subjects, then depending on your conductivity, this propagation will be changing. That is why if we have emotions, if we meditate, if we somehow change our emotional state, then we change conductivity of our skin and we change our conductivity. So let's imagine there are a group of people. Then if this group of people meditate together, then of course they change their conductivity and it will change the signal that we can be measuring on Sputnik. That's why we can use Sputnik in several applications. First application is geoactive zones, because our Earth has many influences from everywhere. So it is influenced from sun, of course, from the moon, and from cosmos. Plus, we have a lot of influence from inside the Earth, because inside the Earth, it's not just some simple matter. It is very complicated part of plasma, of magma, and it is distributed along the Earth's surface on a very uneven pattern. For example, a very simple question. Is gravity the same over the surface of the Earth? No. There are areas with high gravity. There are areas with low gravity. I've been once in Australia, and there my friends, they brought me to one place. And in this place, it is, if you put, it's little hill, and if you put the ball, it comes downhill, normal. But if you drop water, water comes uphill. So it means that on the surface of the Earth, it is a lot of unknown situations. Plus, as I've told you, it is different. And of course, we have dynamics. We have moon cycles, we have solar eclipses, we have strong changes of weather, we have earthquakes, we have electromagnetic environment, not only our human-made, but natural environment. So it's all ever-changing situations. That is why in different parts of the world, we have different situation. We have different energy. And using Sputnik, we can take this measurement. And on our website, sputnikbible.com, you can find a description of different measurements in different parts of the world. Of course, it's not all the description that was done, but at least some. And I can give you just some examples. Earthquake, sun eclipse. It was several measurements of sun eclipse, in particular in 2008 in Siberia. It was total sun eclipse, and you know it comes like an area, moving area. In all those areas, it was 6 Sputniks standing in different parts of the area, and they've been measuring for a long time, at least 1-2 hours before full sun eclipse, and at least 1 hour or 2 hours after. And you see, all the measurements, they generated same pattern, very high energy variation before full sun eclipse and very stable energy after. So it was in different measurements, in different patterns, but everywhere was same. And if we look to parameters, we see, so it was absolutely a different variability before and after. So what we are measuring by standard deviation, it was totally big difference. Similar measurement was done in 2017 in the United States. Again, very high variation before and much more stable signal after. Same, it was possible to measure with earthquakes. We have our colleagues who try to take measurements of earthquakes, and they can predict it a couple of days before real earthquake. And it's not only natural subjects. Some human subjects can influence as well. In Moscow, we have this beautiful church, and in this beautiful church, there are icons. This icon was presented to Russia by Russian dukes in 13th century from Byzantine. And of course, it's a holy icon for all Russian people. It survived all turmoils that was in Russia. In Soviet time, it was moved to a museum, but later on, after collapse of Soviet Union, it was given back to church. And I was allowed by the top priest of this church to take measurement just before this icon. So I put Sputnik, and it was totally automatic mode, of course, and it was running for several hours. And please have a look. So we see on this graph, we see all the moments of this ceremony. So this moment, these people are coming to the church, and you see signals coming down. Then this, you see peak, very clear peak, beginning of psalter readings. And signal still is coming down, coming down. Then at this moment, at beginning of singing, we have in Russian church, Orthodox church, we have beautiful choir that sings beautiful, and they start singing. And then this moment you see again peak. This is the beginning of sermon. No, the beginning of a service. And this again, one huge peak, very big peak, when top priest came in and he started his sermon. So you see, as you see, all the moments of this service, Sunday service, was reflected for 2 hours. Then I've done measurements in different parts of this church, and you see it was nearby the icon, and it was in 2 other parts of the church. So you see, it was clear effect that some human-made subjects really can have influence on the environment. And of course, it had strong influence to people as well. So it was, you see, it was up, no, come back. Yes, here we are. Yes. So before and after, and you see very clear difference for people. Then next days, I was allowed to take measurements at 2 cemeteries. One cemetery where top level people of Russia are buried, and another cemetery where it was unknown people buried. And you see, can you look to the comparison? This is standard deviation of a signal. Those are 1 and 2. It's in temples, in nearby icon, and in another temple as well. And 3 and 4, those are at the cemeteries. I pay attention. Here we see standard deviation of a signal. So we have many different parameters, and always a question, which parameter should we take in consideration? So we need to look to different parameters, because different parameters reflect different features. For example, area, it is amount of photons emitted by a metal subject. So it is like the level of activity. Energy, those are energy of those photons. And the energy typically is more stable than area. So amount of photons is much more sensitive to different influences, to different situations than energy. But standard deviation, as well as entropy, those are indication of variation, how stable the signal. And you know, in Bio-Well, special mode of measurements, you have different levels, and we name it as environmental activity, and it may be very low, positive for health, and very high. And it means this is not good for human beings. And those are 2 measurements at the cemetery. So that's, you know, all the stories about coming to the cemeteries with different ghosts, with different bad spirits. And this is some confirmation as well. Another experiment that I want to show you, those experiments when 11 people from different parts of Russia was sending their influence to 2 Sputnik sensors at some particular time. And Sputniks was turned on 1 hour before, and both of them had very clear change of readings after the influence. You see this green moment, it's half an hour when it was this influence. Every bar, it is measurement averaged for half an hour. And you see this is area, and this is standard deviation. Again, you see very clear difference. So it was many measurements of this kind. We did many experiments with, for example, with Dr. Masari Morta, you know his work. Once he was in Baikal, and he was in his late years, he did blessings of the water of lakes. And again, it was Sputnik standing there, and all the moments of this ceremony was reflected by Sputnik. Another interesting was done in far north of Russia. We have islands, and on one of the biggest islands, there are very old monastery. In Soviet time, it was transformed to Gulag, to concentration camp. But later, now in 90s, it was given back to the church, and now there are monks living there. And in this area, there are a lot of little islands. And on one of little island, there are spirals, stone spirals, that is attributed to Celtic times. So scientists, archaeologists was able to check the spirals and attribute them to Celtic times. So we came there with a group of people, and we've done measurements with Sputnik. So it is outside of spirals and inside of spirals. Difference. There are several spirals, and you see very big difference. And we did measurements of people who was not inside the spirals and people who was inside. Again, we understand that this ancient place was selected for rituals, Celtic rituals, not at random. So it was very special energy at this particular place, and old ancient people, they were able to feel it. That's why they selected this place. Another very interesting expedition was in Colombia, where in the Sierra Nevada mountains, there are Indians who have their living style, as they had for thousands of years. And it's very difficult to reach there. There are practically no road, so it's very difficult to go there by that road. But finally, when you are able to come, you come to beautiful valley, beautiful, with a lot of vegetation, rivers, streams, and people living there, they have this very old type of life. And you know that they have their own clothing, they do it themselves from different vegetation. And we did many measurements in this place. And in all the measurements, it was very, very calm energy. And they have temple. This is their temple. They have ceremonies nearby this temple. And one day, we did measurement at the stone in this temple, where the elders receive messages from stars, because they claim that they came from stars and they still in communication with stars. And you understand that all over the place, it was very stable energy, very calm. But just at this particular stone, it was very high variation of energy. So it means that really it was very specific energy at this particular stone. So those are beautiful people, and let's hope that they will survive with this their life. All of you heard about crop circles, and in Britain, in United Kingdom, there are a lot of crop circles. So they create crop circles every year. Once we came there with a group of scientists, and we were lucky. We came there by Saturday, and crop circle was organized on Friday night. You know that crop circle, it's a movement of air that makes a vortex of energy, and all the crops, they lay down in a very organized way. So again, we did measurements over there, and this is energy outside of crop circle. You see very stable signal just outside, and this is the energy pattern inside. So you see increasing pattern, and if you compare outside and inside. And we believe that this inside, it is a part of a cycle. But of course, we didn't have time to take measurements for a very long time over there. Another interesting measurements was done in Peru. You know, Peru, it's a country of wonders. They have fantastic nature. They have a lot of geoglyphs on not only on Nazca Plateau, but in different other areas. They have Machu Picchu, very famous. And maybe they have mummies, and we've been studying those mummies in Peru. And we did many experiments over there. For example, once we've been in Ramamba Valley, and it was very nice night with very warm wind, with little river, not little, but river or one river coming around. So we was sitting outside, and we invited a group of shamans to make ceremonies. And they did ceremonies for practically 2 hours using drums, using instruments, flutes, some fire. And there I've seen a very unusual situation which I never seen before. Look, this is image of our metal cylinder, standard image that you have when you make calibration. But in the middle of the ceremony, this image transformed to this. So it was very, very unusual. And we see this type of outside light for human beings when they transform to altered state. But for this type of metal cylinder, it was very, very unusual and very specific. And of course, if you look to graph, you see this on the graph, it is really very interesting as well. So it was really very, very unusual situation. Then we did, of course, a lot of measurements in different parts of the world. Very interesting measurements we did with pyramids, because you know that pyramids, it is enigmatic subjects, and pyramids, we don't still understand what does it mean, pyramids, and why all ancient civilizations created pyramids. So one of the first impressions that I had with pyramids, with measurement, was Bosnian pyramids. In Bosnia, Dr. Sam Asmanagic, archaeologist, originally he was Bosnian, but he got his education in the United States. He found that this big mountain, it's a pyramid. And it was a little Bosnian city, and he did excavations. And after excavations, he found huge slabs like this. And he found in one of the pyramid, it was like a tiling. And when he did excavation, he found that it is many artificial layers. And this tiling, of course, no doubt that it is handmade, human-made. And in all excavation, he was able to find this type of slabs of different size, different geometry. And if you pay attention, it is different from our civilization, because in our civilization, when we make tiling, we make it in the same form. They are very machine done, or they are done, even in ancient time, they were done in very precise form. Here, every tile, it is different. It has different form, different size, but they are fit to each other. And it is absolutely clear that they are still in this way for thousands of years. And at different level of the pyramid, we have different slabs, little one, big ones, and again, there are even huge ones. And now Dr. Samas Managic found 3 different pyramids, and they stay in a circle. So you see, it is absolutely clear. And when we study this with Sputnik, we did very interesting, we had very interesting information. But together with pyramids, Dr. Asmanagic found tunnels. So under the pyramids, those are tunnels. And no doubts that they are man-made tunnels. Now they are, because they are done in this form, and they are very nice for people to go there. And Dr. Asman, but all those tunnels was filled with earth. So after many years, Dr. Asmanagic was able to open several kilometers of those tunnels, it's a couple of miles, and some of the tunnels still are closed, you see this way. And this is a map that was done 2 years ago. And of course, we did measurements in the pyramids, we did measurements inside the tunnels with people, with Sputnik, and you see it is absolutely clear difference. Highest energy on the top of pyramids, sun pyramid, moon pyramid, then very quite high energy in tunnels. And of course, in the basement, in outside, the energy is much lower. So this is how I can present it. And it has very strong influence to all people. So being on the pyramids, being inside these tunnels, it is very, very helpful. So it is measurement for 50 people. Now they have hundreds, many hundreds of people measured because they are using Bio-Well for practically everybody who is coming there. And for all people, level of stress come down and energy coming up. And you see this in graphs. And of course, it influences chakras, energy fields, all parameters. Understand this. So now Dr. Asmanagic made like a healing center. So people can come there in this area. They can stay there for several days or a week or even a couple of weeks. And they go to tunnels, they go to pyramids on a regular basis every day. And a lot of people claim that they have release of many serious problems. So it is very, very typical, and a lot of people they claim it. So there's a lot of information of this kind. Another, of course, a lot of pyramids we have in Mexico. And in Mexico, you know that it's the most maybe famous complex, those are Teotihuacan. That's a whole complex of pyramids. And we did measurements there twice in 2012, 2020. And we did ceremonies, meditation ceremonies. And again, it was very well reflected by Sputnik. Recently, under the Teotihuacan pyramids, it was found tunnels, very, very specific tunnels, again, man-made. And once being there, I was invited by Dr. Gomez, who is a top archaeologist there, to take measurements inside the tunnels. So you see, we see energy. Always when I do measurements for some places, for environmental energy, first I take measurements in the hotel, outside of the place, and then in the place. This way we can compare at this one at the same day, what would be the difference? And you see, at this graph, you see measurement at the hotel, green, and measurements at moon and sun pyramids, Quetzalcoatl pyramid, and they're of course much higher. But in tunnels, energy is much lower. And this is very, very typical experiment, typical measurement. Then we were able to come in Mexico in 2021 through a big part of Mexico by car, and we were able to stay in most interesting places and take measurements. So it was Montalban, fantastic place of Toltec civilization. It was Palenque, very famous Mayan civilization, Uxmal, Chichen Itza, and everywhere we did measurements. So we see again, we see that in every place where we've done these measurements, the highest energy was nearby pyramid. Nearby because in Mexico, now it is forbidden to climb most of pyramids. Only in Teotihuacan, still you can do it. But in most places, it is forbidden. But still, even nearby pyramid, we have the highest energy. But in different part of this area, for example, latest you see Chichen Itza, different parts of the area, we see different energy. Still, most of this is higher than energy at the hotel, but still it is different. So it tells us that in these ancient sites of ancient civilizations, we have different energy at different parts. and it was not at random. Last year, we were able to come to Belize. And you know, Belize, it's a little city, a little country nearby border with Mexico and Guatemala. And it's very interesting country, very interesting country, with a lot of beautiful historical subjects, with a lot of beautiful nature. They have, as you can see, they have forests, jungles, and they have mountains. So they have, in one and the same day, you can go to the sea, you can go to jungles, and you can go to the mountains. And they have the biggest, maybe, barrier reef, second biggest in the world after Australian barrier reef. And there you can swim with snorkeling or diving, and there are beautiful, beautiful marine life. Fantastic, fantastic, maybe one of the best in the world. So we've been traveling in Belize, and we visited different pyramids over there, because there it's a country of pyramids. They have wonderful, interesting areas. And in all those areas, you can go there, you can walk there, you can climb any pyramid. So it's open, it's totally open. And plus, very important, it's not so many people as we have in Mexico. Belize is not, but you see how fantastic some moments over there. So we've been there with our friends, Victor from Mexico, and we've done measurements, of course, at every pyramid. And again, you see, and you see again, it is, we stayed in one of the same resort, beautiful resort in jungles with beautiful area, beautiful nature around, and energy at all the pyramids was much higher than in the resort. It was different, of course, but everywhere it was much higher. Even at the base of Karakol pyramids, it was much higher. So it is indication that all those ancient pyramids, all those ancient sites, they was not just created random. It was very special construction done by ancient people worldwide, because we have pyramids in practically in all continents. We have pyramids, big pyramids in China, many pyramids. We have big pyramids in South America. Now they found some pyramids in North America. We have so in different parts. And now some people, they construct their own pyramids. One pyramid that we were able to measure, it's in pyramid in Siberia. There are one city and it's named Tomsk. And in this area, one businessman decided to create a pyramidal complex. His idea was to create around this complex some settlement. It wasn't done yet, but it's still in his project. And he invited a very interesting person, Valery Uvarov, from St. Petersburg. Valery is one of the known person in the world who study pyramids and Egyptian civilization in particular. And Valery created design, and based on this design, they made pyramids. So we came there in July 2020 to take measurements. At the top of the pyramid, they put this huge crystal. And this pyramid, you can come inside of this pyramid. So you can come inside, and they claim that there are beam of energy coming through this crystal, through all the pyramids, and we can stay at different levels of this pyramid. And of course, charge water, charge some products, take meditations. And we did measurements around this pyramid. And you see what was interesting. The highest measurement was outside pyramid. So it is know same information as we did before, that pyramids had very strong influence outside, on the environment outside. On different levels, it was different energy. At level 1, 3, it was practically same as in the hotel, absolutely same. At level 4, it was higher, but still less than outside. And at level 2, it was even lower. Of course, it was only preliminary measurements done for a couple of days. But it is clear demonstration that pyramid is energy structure that has very specific energy pattern outside and inside. And it's necessary to make a lot of research for a long time to understand the meaning of all this energy and the meaning of these effects. So, and then of course we did measurement for several, for 16, no, for 2 days, yes, for 44 hours, practically 2 days. And again, you see, it was when people was coming inside this pyramid, it was a big peak of signal. Number 1, 2, and 3. Those are moments when people was coming inside the pyramid. So it is, as I mentioned before, we people have very strong influence. And that is why when you do measurement at some place, try to do it without people. Because if it will be people around, then they can change all your readings. Very interesting measurements was done in Siberia, in Altai Mountains. We had some expedition. Altai, it is part of Siberia, but it is very interesting area because they have big mountains with glaciers, with snow, and they claim that a lot of tribes was coming from those mountains. And they have a border with China, so they have very close contact with China. And it is beautiful areas. They have big rivers, beautiful rivers. They have very special lakes. You see, this is natural lake of this color. They have plains, and on these plains there are ancient obelisks because there are still shamans who are doing ceremonies over there. And they have huge mountains. And on the mountains, you can climb big mountain, and it's really very serious challenge. I've been climbing the top mountain, Beluga, over there, but it is really very serious challenge. So we did measurements over there, and it was very different, very interesting effect. So this energy of people, of 1, 2, 3, 7 people, the members of our expedition. And you see, the highest energy for all the people was in the mountains. When we came to high mountains, of course, we didn't climb very high mountain, but still we came to snow mountains in summertime with beautiful areas, beautiful lakes. And there, it was the highest energy for all members of the expedition. And in different areas, it was different. So it was averaged for the group. And you see, this is mountains. So it shows us again that mountains has very, very positive effect on health. And stress level was the lowest in the mountains again. Even if we had very high endurance, it was not so easy for people to walk there, but still it was very clear effect. And when we did measurements, it was very interesting. You see, the higher we was coming, the higher was the energy. So the highest was in the mountain camp. It is a little bit less was in mountain pass, but it shows us that it's not only altitude, but weather, because it was different days. And in different days, it was a little bit different weather and maybe different moon position. So, but still, those measurements in the mountains were the highest. And then it was shaman stone, it was rivers, valleys. So again, it shows us that we can, this way, we can take measurements in different parts of the areas. And I suggest you, if you go to some place in the area, to take measurements in one finger mode, because it will be much faster for you, because it's possible to make an environmental mode. But when you need to take a lot of places, and when there are people around, then maybe you need to be, don't have a lot of time to take measurements. So if you don't have time, just take one finger mode, 50 readings, and that's enough. Another interesting area I want to show you, this is Turkey, Cappadocia, Pamukkale, and sea level. So again, we had very interesting travel by car over there. And in Turkey, they have fantastic areas. They have these natural plains, they have ancient caves, they have underground cities with very interesting construction. They have ancient cities, the biggest in the world, cities from Greek time, Roman time, and they have very interesting nature and sea level. And again, measurements all there. So the highest was in the mountains. When we were coming down, it was coming down. And you see in an ancient Greek city, Hierapolis, it was very high energy as well, much higher than in hotel. And the lowest level was nearby sea level. So it shows us again that ancient subjects, they have very, very interesting effect. And of course, it's possible to take this measurement with a long time. So our friends Adolfo Rodriguez and Marcelo Torres, they did this measurement. It was very, very interesting. I hope that maybe you give them time to tell themselves about the experiment. So I don't want to tell about this for a long time. But what's important, they created absolutely new way of measurements. It was their invention. And that's why I really can adore your work. I see you on the screen. And they did measurements for many, many days, for a long time. And they found these circadian rhythms that was repeatable. And of course, those rhythms, they depended on the influence of special resonator. So I don't want to tell this, to talk a lot about this, but I hope they will do it themselves. And by the end, I'm sure that time is running very fast. I want to show you some our latest experiment. Let me see. Like this, yes. Okay, so we had two sessions, one in Madrid and another in Mexico City. And in these sessions, we were able to take measurements during meditation process with many instruments, with many Sputnik sensors. And you see, this is measurement in Madrid for 9 instruments. And you see from 9 instruments, 7 was able to detect change of signal before meditation and during meditation. In Mexico City, it was the 5 measurements, and there all 5 measurements was able to take measurements, to detect this. What's important that it's not just one instrument, because we can always tell, oh, this is some variation, this is something that's strange, but it is several instruments in one is the same area, and they all, most of them responded to meditation process, but still responded differently. Of course, it shows that it depends on people who are nearby, who are involved in this meditation. For some people, they can really have strong influence on the environment, detected by Sputnik. For some people, it's practically nothing. And even the slope of this influence may be different. For some people, energy dropped down. As you see. For some people, it came up. So again, it shows us that different people may have different influence to environment, and it may be detected by sensor. Of course, it's a very interesting topic for research. That's why I really invite you to take part in this research, to do it for yourself, for your colleagues, for your friends, and to see how it is changing, because it's really very, very interesting process. We've developed this liquid device, Bio-Well Mini, on mobile phone. Unfortunately, we blocked for practically 2 years with all this COVID situation because we don't have Bluetooth chips for this device. But seems to me now we found some chips. So we are in the process of experimentation with. I hope so, that by the end of the year we'll be able to produce this. Then, of course, it makes our measurements with Sputnik, with environment, with meditation much easier, because with mobile phone it's very easy. And I did many expeditions, I've been using this, and it's really very, very efficient. So this is my very short presentation. Thank you for the attention, and let's hope we see each other next time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Krakow. That was very amazing. Dr. Krakow made Belize sound so amazing that in his last travels to Orlando, we decided to put a trip together. So I want to take this chance and announce that that trip is finalized. We have set up everything in place. And I want to share the landing page with everybody so that you guys can take a look. Called retreats.GaiaHealers.com. And we have worked with Dr. Kratkow's travel agents to create this experiment. I'm super excited to share this with you guys. It's going to be on October 10th to 17th of 2022. And we're going to go and exactly in the spots that Dr. Kratkow went and did the measurements in Belize. We're going to go there and we're going to do the same exact research. So on day one, we're going to go to the Baboon Sanctuary, and then we go to the Mayan archaeological sites, and we have acquired permits so we can actually go into some of these sacred sites and do measurements. On day 3, we're going to go to Karkol. Day 4, we're going to be on the Aktyon and the caves. And day 5, we're in the Hopkins village. And on day 6 and 7, we're going to spend time in the Kaykalker and snorkel and one of the largest reefs around. So super excited for this. Make sure that you join us on this trip, and we'll share all the information that we collect later on with everybody. All right, with further ado, let me go ahead and stop my share and get our favorite researcher, Dmitry Orlov, on board with you guys so he can share some of his amazing research with you. Dmitry, let me ask you to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hello. Can you make me a co-host, please?
Yes. And I'm going to make you a co-host.
You're still not an organizer. The host is Konstantin still.
Oh, he's still Konstantin. Reclaim host. All right, I got it.
So just make me co-host, please. Not a host, just co-host.
How do you make a co-host? I only have host here.
Oh, really? Well, in my case, in my menu,
So
usually I have 2 options.
All right, so you're a host now.
Okay.
Floor is yours. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you sharing this amazing knowledge with us.
Okay. Do you want to make the recording, or is it?
It's already been recorded.
Is it going on?
Yes.
Okay. So good day to everyone. Nice to see you here. Well, well, I was listening to the speech of Nima and then speech of Dr. Kortkov, and I'm thinking, what can I add there? because of course Dr. Kortkov was visiting so many places, has done so many researches and scans worldwide, so that, well, it's really difficult to add something new there, really. And so I was sitting and thinking, okay, what should I do? And even though that I knew that I will be speaking after Dr. Kortkov, and I decided that I should be present during the speech in order to see what will be shared, in order not to duplicate, and repeat something. And it's really hard not to repeat, really hard, because all these things, well, since I'm working with Dr. Kortkov since 2007, well, many of these things we came together through with all these, approaches into this research. But maybe it's my destiny and I will be boring again.
That wouldn't be
and
possible.
I will speak not too much about the actual experiments, because I haven't been to all these many countries that sacred places that Dr. Kortkov have been, but I will speak more about the essence of what we actually do, what we actually measure, because what I see in all this development of this sphere in Sputnik measurements. Well, and Sputnik, well, was made in 2009, the first one. Well, here in my office, I have a place where all the generations of Sputniks are. So, well, maybe I can even show you the first one. Yeah, well, and in fact, the first Sputnik was not something super high tech and scientific. Don't expect nothing special. And it looks like this. So it's just a pencil with a wire, with a banana plug, of course, at the end. And these needles were just stolen from my wife, and I have just soldered them to this wire. So this is the first Sputnik that I've made in 2009. Well, then other generations like this strange and ugly one, and then they developed, like they were more solid and bigger with each generation, and then like this, and the current state of the Sputnik, right? But what is interesting about this is that I've some years ago, when I had more free time to do the actual research, now I'm too busy with the management and ongoing, hardware and software development of the Bio-Well. So I don't have so much time to do the actual experiment. But when I had time, I've made the comparison of the sensitivity of this Sputnik and the one that is made on the factory. And it turned out that the handmade Sputnik is more sensitive. But, well, the first research that was made with this specific sample. And one of the first research that was made with actual Sputnik, not the antenna, the radio antenna that was made in the 90s, but the actual Sputnik with his metal hedgehog, right? Even with this one, I went to a reconnection healing summit in Netherlands, and this Sputnik was used there because we didn't have any other options. But well, it worked very well, and that is why we have continued our investigation in this direction. But if you read the papers of for those years, you will notice that in many of those papers that were published by Dr. Kortkov and other scientists who were using the regular antenna and then the first models of Sputnik, there was no explanation what is actually is being measured, and there was no understanding what does it mean. So the main conclusion in each experiment was, yeah, something is oscillating or something is varying in time, but what does it mean? We don't know. There is a change. Yeah, we know, we can see the signal is changing, but what does it mean? And this is the main question until now. Well, you can correct me, Nima, if I am not right. It is still a big question for many researchers who are using Sputnik. Well, there are like nearly 1,000 of Sputniks around the world now, or maybe more now, but still, this question is on the air.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I have found out that there's a lot of confusion in this field, not only in the field of, I would say, geopathic stress and these types of, abnormal places or sacred places, or the different names of them, geoactive zones, etc. And there are so many theories about what it is about. Many books published. Well, I have a big shelf of different books devoted to this topic, and all of them are, concentrated on some one aspect and saying that other aspect doesn't matter. Whilst others say, no, it's this aspect that is the significant, and others, they just bullshit. So, well, in fact, there is no some golden mean or golden standard here until now. Still, there are many flows in this field, and there are many approaches to the interpretation and to the measurements. And, well, I am not an exception from the rule. I'm also Homo sapiens. Well, maybe sometimes sapiens, not always sapiens. But I have my own approach to this kind of research. And yeah, my approach is different from, for example, other researchers and Dr. Kortkov's approach too. So while some researchers prefer to concentrate on the energy, and we talk about energy of space, and we concentrate on the level of energy, specifically when we do the measurements with the Sputnik, I prefer to concentrate on the other aspects. And this is what I will be speaking about today. I will not share some, extraordinary results. No, I will share what has been done years ago when I have just, started with the Sputnik in 2009, and I was doing a lot of experiments till 2012. Well, then my first kid was born, then the second one, then the third, and well, sorry, I don't have time to do research now. So, but well, they are growing up, and it means that soon I will have time to do research again. So let's go step by step. My presentation is really short. There are a few slides, but it's like the essence, the condensed information. So, and I would rather prefer to, answer your questions. There are a few of us here, 10 people. So it will be more interesting to discuss these ideas and this approach, because Nima is doing his research, Adolfo and with his wife are doing their research, Konstantin is doing research, and I think others who are here, they're also doing their own research in their field. So it would be more interesting to discuss the ideas that I will share. And so let's go. Just 1, 2, 3. Okay, can you see my screen, right? Okay. So when we have made the first experiments with the Sputnik and the actual really basic radio antenna, well, this was the antenna which was used for many years by Dr. Kortkov, and in 5 elements approach, just regular radio one. And well, Sputnik has appeared for space measurements accidentally. The thing is that I was working on measurements of water, not of the space. And we were using the syringe to measure the water drop. I was using the platinum electrode that we have now as one of the Bio-Well accessories. But as long as I was interested in doing research in a very subtle field, platinum electrode was not sensitive enough. And the water syringe with the water drop, unfortunately, it was very sensitive, but it was too dependent on me as an operator, because I had to make this water drop myself with my shaking hands. And my experiment has shown that the biggest variability comes not from the quality of water or some mantras or some other structurization things that I was doing, but the biggest difference was from my shaking hands. And so I had to find out some other way of doing research. And I was reading the book by Chizhevsky, you know, the ionization of the air. And maybe most of you know about air ionizers. Nowadays, they're very widespread worldwide. So it started from Chizhevsky, who had made a big work of these air ionizers with positive and negative ions. And I thought, okay, so we have already high voltage there, right, with the GDV. So in order to make it even higher in the place that we measure, this is not enough. This is not sharp. So the idea was that we need to make something like this, or we have to change the platinum electrode and make it more sharp, because the electrical potential depends on the sharpness of the tip from which it is being emitted. So that's why Sputnik was made like that. So this is the most sharp thing that I was able to find in my apartment. So, and that preposition was, well, a good one. And it turned out, yeah, well, it is more sensitive, much more sensitive than this one. But with this one, if you put it into the water, it becomes, well, corrosive, rusty. So, well, the water experiments didn't work well. But I had an idea like, okay, well, there's some amount of water in the air, right? So let's try to, you know, put it out from the glass of water and put it into the air. And that's why this water sensor, because initially Sputnik was made for water measurements, not for space measurements. So just because it was too rusty, and being a student, I didn't have money to, you know, make it gold plated, you know, or platinum plated or something like that, in order to evade corrosion. So I put it into the air. And the main question was, okay, so, well, all these beautiful graphs, you have seen a lot of them. Nima was sharing, Dr. Kortkov was sharing. But, well, what are these curves about? Yeah, they're interesting. There's some variations there. What is it about? What are we actually measuring? And the second question, very big one and an interesting one. Do we really care what it is about? Because does it really influence us? Because at the end, we don't care about the actual space. Forget about space if the space doesn't affect us, right? But as long as the space is affecting us, we're caring about that, right? We don't care too much about the cosmos, about the all this garbage that we leave around our planet, just because it doesn't influence us for now, right? when this cover of all this garbage around around our planet will be so thick that we will not see the sun, we will start caring about the cosmos too, right? So this is very important idea that came to me, is that we care about space just because it affects us. So at the end, when we have this curve of another curve, the only thing that we care how this or another curve affects us at the end. So we are the final judge that will tell us, okay, this is a good space and this is a bad space, right? Because for the universe, there is no good and there is no bad. Everything is okay. So, and of course, the main thing was about, okay, thinking about us, thinking about our state. So of course, like we are living in big cities, we have lots of stress just because we live in the cities with all this, you know, pollution, with all these EMFs, etc. Right? So, well, usually this is the state that we actually also measure with the Bio-Well, right, through the fingers, and we care about the energy of the person. But then when we do the measurement of the place, some specific place, well, it's not only about some house. Why do we care about Chichen Itza or any other pyramid or any tunnel under the earth if it doesn't help us to restore our energy? We don't care, in fact, too. But if it helps us to restore the energy, then yeah, it's a good one. Okay, let's go there. Let's spend some time there. Maybe we'll have even some revelations there. Why not? But it means that this place that we are measuring should be a boon for us, for human beings. So that after spending time in such a place, we will be full of power, right? So the concept, this is the main concept, the main approach. We really care about our state. In fact, we don't care about space, because space will and nature will take care of itself pretty well without us. Everything is balanced there. We are the problem, not the nature. So for us, when we talk about the energy state, we have the 5 main factors that are actually changing our energy state, right? The nutrition, the sleeping regime, the psycho-emotional state, the mindset, and the physical activity, right? And the important thing is that many people forget, when they speak about the energy state of people, they forget about the environment and how significant it is in terms of affecting us. So in terms of, you know, studying the environment, there are different approaches. Well, there are ecological parameters. We all know the electromagnetic fields, electrostatic fields, magnetic fields, radioactive fields, right? Acoustic fields, simply chemical and physical chemical composition of the air, right? All these factors, well, I think I've named all of them that are known by the science nowadays are here. So then there is another aspect called video ecology. It's the influence of the shapes and colors on the human being through the eyes. That's why it's video ecology. That's what we see, right? Through the eyes, our brain consumes the information, and all these shapes and forms and colors are affecting us because we can see them and our eyes can analyze them and interact with them. Well, there are some kind of geopathic zones, and there's some kind of, you know, as Dr. Kortkov has told about the instability of the gravity field around Earth. There are some kind of Curry lines or different other lines, Hartmann lines around the Earth that, well, only with the dowsing method can be detected. There are no physical devices that can detect these lines until now. Even like I have been trying to do these kind of measurements with Sputnik. Well, unfortunately, I didn't succeed in order to say, yeah, I have done experiments and I've detected Hartmann lines with Sputnik. Not yet, not yet. And another aspect that is the topic of today's presentation is the activity of space. Not the energy, not the energy. And activity and energy are different things. And I will try to explain why. Briefly, but will do my best. Well, since 2007, when it was no Bio-Well, I have seen many of these kind of graphs and lines saying, oh, they're interesting line and something changes. But there was no explanation. What does it mean? Okay, it goes down, it goes up, like, so what? So what? Just interesting line, that's it. So the question for us, what energy we're measuring? So yeah, well, this aspect with the open antenna and all these, the condenser, well, most of people don't understand this part with these, you know, RLC contours and all these electrical schemes, etc. But when you say, oh, this is high energy space and this is low energy space, people understand something different from what you're saying. So let's try to explain this. First topic is the quality and quantity of energy. So what do we really measure, and what do we really care about, quality or quantity? What is the main thing that we should be concentrated on when we are doing our research? And many people don't understand the difference when they do the measurements with the Sputnik, the difference between these two aspects about quality of the signal and quantity of energy of the signal. Let's make it simple. Quantity is about only two parameters. It's just the amplitude of the signal and its frequency, nothing else. In terms of quantity, you don't care about how the graph goes, how the line goes. For the quantity, it doesn't matter. It's just about amplitude. It's 5 joules or 10 joules. But do you know how many joules are good for a person or not good for a person when we talk about Sputnik measurements? No, we still don't know. We still don't know. Why? Because when we do the measurements with the Sputnik, the energy parameter depends on the chemical composition of the air. First of all, chemical. You just change the humidity of the air, only humidity. I'm not even talking about other gases that can be different in different places. And the area and energy of the gas discharge, because it's air discharge, will be different. So it means the amplitude of the signal just depends, okay, there are more oxygen in this place or less oxygen in this place. Or there is more nitrogen in this place or less, or there are more negative ions in this place, etc., or higher humidity or low humidity. Okay, Nima, question to you. Will you name a place where the humidity is higher, a high energy place?
Where the humidity is higher and the energy is...
Yeah. Will you tell that, oh, this place has a high energy?
Well, see, when like in Florida, there's a lot of humidity in the air. So if I do measurements here, then compared to let's say, like, you know, on top of a mountain somewhere that is very, very dry, so then that should kind of like correlates, right? That if you say that
it will change the signal. Yes,
yeah?
Yes. Just the change of the humidity will change the absolute level of energy. But it will not make this place something special, right? This is not what we are looking.
But how about if you test the same environment with the same humidity, and the only thing that's being changed, it's what's happening within the walls?
Exactly. So that's what I'm trying to explain, that the actual level of energy is too dependent on the chemical composition of the air.
Exactly.
So it means that, okay, we do the measurements here in the office and outside the office. The chemical composition is drastically different. And of course, the energy, because the chemical composition of the air is different, will create different air discharge. Because the actual glow that we photograph depends on these atoms and molecules of different gases that are floating in the air. So it means that this amplitude, well, it's really hard to control these aspects because you cannot control the chemical composition of the air in some place. How can you compare the energy of air discharge in the hotel with the energy of air discharge in Giza pyramid? Just the absolute level. Just because the chemical composition of the air is absolutely different. So the difference in the absolute level of energy is just because of chemical composition, nothing else. You cannot state that it is different because Giza pyramid is so special. No way, you don't have the ways to do that. Any doctor of sciences and chemistry will just tell you that, and you will have nothing to resist. So it means that the amplitude and like this frequency of the signal that we register, well, frequency, well, we cannot change it. The amplitude is the absolute level of area, intensity, and energy. I don't pay attention to these parameters because they are too dependent on the chemical composition and different other aspects of the air. But of course, the quantity parameter can be good or bad, right? When it's too much, it's not good, right? When it's not enough, it's also not good. So quantity only in this aspect, we can potentially find, some way of saying, okay, when there is too much of oxygen, it's not good. Okay, climb too high in the mountains, right? Or when there's not enough of oxygen, it's not good, right? But when we do measurements with Sputnik, unfortunately, we cannot state which component in the air has changed. We don't have those spectrum analyzers that will tell us what has been changed in the air. So unfortunately, that's why me personally, I put a big cross on paying attention to the absolute level of energy, area, or intensity in my research. What else do we have? Another aspect that many people don't get and don't, just because of education, don't know, is that the ideal wave cannot transfer information. 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0. Can you code something into this signal? No, because it's 1 0 1 0. It's absolutely stable, ideal sinusoidal wave. No information can be there. Information can be extracted when there is variability, changes. You will never find such waves in nature, but you can find them in the socket. That's why these waves from man-made waves are not good for human beings and for living beings, whilst the natural electromagnetic fields are good for us because they are chaotic. They're not like this sinusoidal. But okay, it's a different topic. It's a long story. So the information, its color, shape, changes. This is from the yantras, right? So all of you, I think, know about the existence of them. And information is something different than the energy. So the information is being transferred by the energy. So it can be transferred by electromagnetic wave, it can be transferred by acoustic wave, or by some other waves, right? So the energy is the mean with which the information is being delivered somewhere. So when I do the measurements, I do pay attention to this thing, the deviation of the signal. And this is the most interesting and important thing that I recommend to pay attention to when you do the measurements. 3 signals. The green one is much more stable than the red or blue one, right? And I don't care what is the absolute level of area or intensity is here. For me, the variability is more important. And you know why? I can easily explain to you. And I will, if I will have time, well, maybe not. I will try to give you an example why the variability is more important than the absolute level. Because of such a word called adaptation. Your body is constantly adapting to the environmental conditions, non-stop, 24/7. And just very simple question, Nima, tell me, if you will be in a place where the environmental conditions are stable, and you will compare this place with the place where the environmental conditions are unstable, in which place you will be spending more energy per hour? Nima.
Unstable.
In the unstable, because you will spend more energy on adaptation, right? That's why I see the direct connection between this variability, because when you have variability, it means you will have to adapt to the changes. And this will affect you. More changes, more energy you have to spend to be present in that place. Okay, so trying to put a small resume here. So the quantity of energy, the value that we see on the device, like 5 volts, 20 hertz, some amount of watts, etc., right? Whilst the quality is the information that energy transfers, and it is about time dynamics. It's really hard to analyze the quality if you measure just for a couple of seconds, or you measure for half a minute. How can you say about this space overall? For example, if you live in the apartment and you sleep in the bed for 8 hours a day, how can you know the time dynamics and the quality of this bed if you measure it only for 10 minutes? It will be not so accurate, I would say, right? So in order to analyze quality, you have to devote time to that in order to see the time dynamics and variability. So going back to Bio-Well, when we talk about quantity, it's area, its intensity, and its energy parameters. 3 parameters that are, from my perspective, my personal perspective as a researcher, are not so interesting. I'm using them only for tuning my device, because I know that in Bio-Well there are areas of area, well, the value of area in which the system is more sensitive to changes, and in which it is too saturated, so it's insensitive. So this is the only aspect for which I use these parameters like area, intensity, and energy, nothing else. But what I pay attention to is the quality of the signal, the deviation of the signal. Entropy is just showing the moments at which the deviation is changing. So, well, it's an additional parameter. In fact, the deviation is enough for me. So, and you all know that in Bio-Well, we have the activity level of space or activity level of environment parameter. That is a parameter that is analyzing this variability of signal and time. And the essence of this approach is that there should be some normal corridor of this kind of variability of the signal in which we will feel ourselves good. And when this activity goes too low, it's not good. When it goes too high, it's not good. Again, we remember the concept of adaptation. Because when the environmental conditions are too passive, hypoactive, it means all your metabolic, energetic processes in body will also go down, and you will feel sleepy in such a place. So it's not a good place to stay for a long time, right? Whilst, for example, hyperactive place is where the signal changes too frequently and too much. So it means you will spend too much energy on staying in this place by adapting to its conditions. And again, after a very short amount of time, you will be exhausted. Okay, and my idea about sacred places is that most of the sacred places are either hyperactive or hypoactive. And maybe people were not specifically constructing them like this, being hyperactive or hypoactive, but they were just selecting places on the planet that are already hyperactive or hypoactive, and they were building their monasteries or different pyramids, etc., on these specific places, because non-prepared person, a layman, will not be able to spend time in such a place, because either he or she will switch off because it's too hyperactive, or get exhausted very fast because it's hyperactive. So from my perspective, these sacred places are just natural filters of the visitors, phase control. If you are not prepared, if you are not internally developed and you cannot control your inner state, you cannot regulate your energy state, your metabolism, the adaptation capabilities, you will not be able to spend time and to enter this sacred place and spend time there. You will feel bad, sick, or something, some pain and discomfort there. And you can find lots of proofs there about this kind of phenomena online when you read about the visiting of different tourists of different sacred places, when they're saying, oh, I just entered this place and I felt bad, so I get out of there as soon as I can. Well, maybe you have read about the Kailash mountain, right? That not so many people can even go near to it, right? Because they feel discomfort, they feel pain, and they cannot stay there, etc., etc. So that's why my proposal, when you do the measurements with the Sputnik, when you do the measurements with any other instrument, even if you are measuring just the EMF, the some spectra, the band of the EMF, the most interesting thing there is the dynamics of the signal. And Sputnik is not something super duper special in this regard. It's just very simple tool in order to do this kind of measurements. But in fact, take the radiometer, that will measure radioactivity, and write down the measures in time for half an hour in one place and for half an hour in another place. And don't look at the absolute level, but look at the variability of the signal. And you will find out that it's different for different places. And this variability is the most important thing for us, for researchers who really care about this so-called energy of space. The variability is the one that you are actually searching for, not the absolute level of the signal. it's my personal approach, and this is my personal concept that I'm just proposing to you, and you are welcome to use it in your research and pay attention to this fact. You see that the information that also affects the space. You see that I've done measurements with different yantras. When you put these colorful yantras on the floor, you do the measurements on this spot before with the Sputnik, then you put the yantra just beneath the Sputnik and you do the measurements again, and you can see the difference. And yantra doesn't change the energy. It changes the information. And the absolute level of signal usually don't change, because the actual yantra, this biogeometry, if you have heard about the sacred geometry stuff, all those different geometrical objects, pyramids, labyrinths, what else I can name, different yantras, and well, many other stuff. They are working on the information level. And when we talk about information, it means we need to look at the time dynamics of the signal, not on the absolute level, the energy, as many people say. So, well, this is my message. It's already, yeah, I missed my time.
That was amazing, Dimitri. Thank you so much. You shed so much light on the way that we do research, and that's exactly why these meetings are. We can all collaborate and learn from each other, so that we can fill in the gaps that we're missing in the research that we're doing. And you know, if we can learn from each of these sessions just a little bit here and there, then we can do so many more amazing types of research and understand so much more about our environments. And it's a beautiful place that we live in. Thank you again for being here. We really appreciate your time and your knowledge. I would like to open the floor to Adolfo at this point. And I know that he's got some really amazing information that Dr. Krotkov was telling us about. So I can't wait to hear about all of your amazing research that you've done. Dimitri, I just need you to switch over.
Yeah, I understand. It's the problem that my mouse. Yeah, it's back. Yeah, it has frozen, you know, for a while. I cannot, you know, do anything. And I was like clicking, no response.
Perfect.
Okay. So thank you everyone for listening. Well, again, I'm here on this planet. My contacts, well, you know them. I'm online at my email, Telegram, WhatsApp, whatever. Welcome to contact me. I will be happy to interact and discuss. So you are organizer, Nima, so you can continue, and thanks everyone for attention. Bye.
Thank you so much for being here. All right, Adolfo, I'm going to go ahead and make you the host now.
Okay, let me see.
And let's change the pen for you. So
now I'm the host. Yeah. Okay. Let me share the screen. So let's get. Okay.
Dr. Krotkov had a very awesome introduction for you. So I don't feel like I need to add anything to that. So we'll just get started with your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first, thank you, Nima, very much for inviting us, and Dr. Krotkov and Dimitri too. So, okay, we're measuring 9 years ago here with my wife that together do this path, you know, of try to understand consciousness. You know?
We had the same question, like Dimitri said, what are we measuring? So we are measuring photonic information, and light is consciousness. So with that, we are measuring consciousness.
So, okay, so let's see. Why doesn't go? Okay. So the question is, could we measure the vacuum fluctuation? So all the experiments that we do, let's see if you are with us thinking the same, no? Because it's all connected. Well, the first thing that I want to tell you is how I see the measurements of the Bio-Well. Korakov and Dimitri tell very, very good explanation of that. But let's see how I see it to understand the graph that we made. So the first thing is how the area that the Bio-Well detects. I asked Dimitri and Korakov. They told me that it's around 50 feet. That's the area, normal area that it's. But with our experience and the travel with some pyramids and geological activities that they're emerging right now with all solar flares and all that stuff, I think is infinity, because when we are, well, later we'll explain why I say that it's infinity, that detection. Normally it's 15 feet, 16 feet, but you will see. So when you take a shot of the Bio-Well, it detects the area that is a number of pixels. But the other thing that is very important is the intensity, is the average of each one. So with these two numbers, you can do a lot of things, like you can calculate the energy. And if you add some time, you can calculate to the standard deviation, entropy, and activity level of environment, and many more. So the idea here is an example that we do, that Dimitri tell you, is the area, no? The area, this is a real measurement. There's 7 hours there, so you can see the kind of pixels, the number of pixels, each one. The intensity too, the energy, the deviation standard, the entropy, and the last one is activity environment. So with this 6 graph, you can see what's going around. So in this example, I see that the entropy at the bar number 5 is something there. The deviation standard from the 3rd to the 6th is more stable. So, and the activity, no, it changed from some reason. So we decide to combine 2 graphs, especially 2 graphs, the intensity and the activity on the environment. And if we mix it, I have information about the intensity of the place, and I will tell you right now why intensity we make, and the activity of that intensity. So this is a new graph that for me is very, very nice, because you can see, remember that I told you in the past graph that the 5 bar is something rare with the entropy. You can see it here in the area, and the energy going down as well as the intensity. So it gives you a lot of information to us, no? But for me and for my wife is the activity level, as Dimitri told, is the best thing that it's to explain all the things that is going around.
Everything that is receiving is also transmitting. So besides measuring how energy is affecting us, we are also interested in measuring how we can affect the energy, because the information goes both ways. So we've developed experiments in closed systems, and like Dr. Krokov said, we measure for long periods of time, and we register what's happening around, so that we will have controlled humidity, temperature, pH, and a lot of many factors.
An example of this one is we have an office in the World Trade Center in Mexico City. This is a graph that is 13 hours, is the intensity. And then, no, it's really units is the graph of activity. But you can see here in the 4th hour that is normal 8 o'clock in the morning. All the people go inside, there's a lot of energy around, and then at 11 hours, people go home. So you can see like where's the movement of the building, no? Up there. So then we meet with Nassim Haramein, and he has a beautiful device there, an art crystal that he invents in the resonator. So he let us measure his resonator. And this is the first graph that we take, no? Is the intensity, and the colors is the activity. There's 12 o'clock, the black lines. So you can see perfect the circadian cycle, no? And then the same day we take from the World Trade Center, you can see it not that perfect, but you can see the circadian cycle. That's why that when Karakov saw this graph, he told me, if you are going to measure long terms, you will only be measuring the circadian cycle. So I say, wow, that's a trick, no? That's the thing that we want to measure because it's consciousness. I think we is consciousness in time, right? So we begin with that, and then we decide to collapse the two graphs from the World Trade Center and the resonator. So the difference is the thing that Dimitri is telling about, that is a question that is in there, you know? What is that? You know, what is that difference? So we can call it different activities, like the graph do, or like a sort of consciousness, no? A piece of consciousness that is moving, because we are all connected. So in different places, because I have these two graphs in different places, and I see different movements of the intensity of the pixels and activity too. No?
Yes, and we use the term impedance because we think that, like in water, this resonator is reducing the impedance in the energy field.
Yeah. So, okay. And then we continue measuring his device, and we see that the change from low activity to hypoactive, and they stay like that all the time that we measure. So it's important. So we decide to put another Bio-Well in his office around about 15, 20 feet from the resonator. So this is the first graph. You can see normal. It's not the circadian cycle beautiful like the resonator, but it's the same. It's the activity is high activity is an office, and the blue one is hypo. So what happened 8 months later? That the circadian cycle, that the way that it moves, begins to show in the office, like the
we think it was an expansion of the resonator, creating these beautiful patterns in the circadian rhythm,
the shadow, no, that goes all around the office. And then what happened in the 3 months later? Boom.
Exactly the same.
Exactly the same, no? But with different activity, no? It's very important. So we study a lot these.
We were doing this experiment during 4 years.
Yeah, and then beautiful. So what happened in the office? The first graph that we take in March, and the second one that 11 months later, you can see the difference, no? But this difference is about the impedance of the resonator. No, that's important to know. So we think that consciousness is being affected by a different impedance, no, in this place.
And again, it was a very controlled environment, a laboratory. And this time we're not measuring what's the energy around, but how devices or intentions are affecting the energy.
Okay, then we with a device inside the resonator, we see a lot of graphs like full moon, new moon, how it's affecting, no? If we take a little like zoom in there, we see that how a full moon, the wave of the circadian cycle is not too good. And in new moon, you can see that 2 days before is affecting, no, the way the moon is affecting the earth, no? In some, it's not like that always, but
Every moon is different,
it's different.
so we need to make constant measurements to understand if there's a pattern behind that.
Right now, there's no pattern, no, but you can see there's several months here that is not a pattern. It's like moving a lot. That's the environment.
Yeah, but then we started adding, and this will be a talk for another day, events happening at cosmological levels, and it correlates with the difference of the moons. So yeah, it's a lot of information.
So with that information, we begin to travel again to Russia to make some studies with Korokov and Dmitry, take course there. And then we go to Bosnia to measure the pyramid.
The pyramid with Dr. Sam.
With Dr. Sam and the water there. And then we go to the United States too, to keep measuring with Nassim. And then we go to Costa Rica. Costa Rica, there's some shamans there, and we measure some ayahuasca ceremonies. And then we go to Amsterdam. We were near the airport, so we measured the airport. Flights go in and out. Very interesting. And then go to Praga. No, in Praga, we measure a lot of things there.
Yeah, we were taking another course with Dr. Krakow.
With the doctor and the water, no? And then we go to Colombia. Colombia is the house of the shaman, so we go there. And,
we also measure the mammals.
And the mammals.
Dr. Krakow already talked about it. It's a beautiful energy.
Mm-hmm. And then we go to Egypt with Nassim. No, we will talk to you about that trip. And then we go to Spain. Beautiful measurement there, and at least we go to Iran to make some measurements.
Very powerful measurements.
Yeah, there, and we have a friend in Australia that he has a Bio-Well, and he let us his measurements to do some experiments to correlate with us. So we decide to make an experiment. We take some. We build 2 aquariums. And inside we put the technology of Nassim Haramein. We control the water, and we put a Bio-Well outside to see how the energy is outside the experiment. We put 2 of them in the water inside to measure the water, and 2 more inside a cube that you will see to measure the environment inside. So, and then we have another devices that control the humidity, that tell us about the humidity, the light, the CO2, pH, all of that measurements, and then correlate it with the Bio-Well.
So that it will be the most controlled environment that we can measure.
Mm-hmm. So what's inside here? Inside you can see this is a 64 crystal, the Nassim Haramein. There's the Sputnik there, and the water. All around is water, and the measurements of the Bio-Well. And then we put some tests with seawater portfolios. No, now we are experimenting with Ormus. No, right now, and the CDS. CDS is chlorine dioxide. So we put there, it's structured somehow the water, and we thought that we drink that chlorine dioxide goes deeply in the body and get more.
This next step of our experiments were inspired by Dr. Luc Montañer's paper of DNA waves and water. So we are checking and hoping that we will be able to register how we're transferring the structured water of the aquarium into all the medicines we're creating and backwards.
Okay. So the next measurement that we do is a spring equinox. No, we will still measuring in that time in the resonator of Nassim, and then appears this graph. You can tell is 3 days. The black lines are 12 o'clock. The pink line is where the equinox, the shadow of the equinox pass through where Nassim lab is. And you can see about 10 hours later, something happens. The line that you see is the energy. So in this graph, we have the activity, the intensity, and the energy. So we can see the energy that goes up in that time, no? And then in the office that we still measuring that office is the same hour, but the energy goes down and the activity goes red. So you can see here the difference of the two of them. And the important thing is which first, we detect first. So the office or the resonator. No, we're still working on that. But what happened in our experiment in Mexico with the Bio-Well that is outside doesn't detect anything, no? But inside, where it's a 64, no, we detect the same as the office. Why is that? Because we think first the equinox goes with a shadow goes first from Mexico City, we thought, and then for where it is in the United States, the lab of Nassim. So we detect it first, and then goes, and then like 12 hours, no, 10 hours later, in the Nassim and the office. No?
It's already very interesting that two devices in California and one device in Mexico City are sharing the information, even though it's a different 3-hour different time, but it's already very interesting that they are sharing the information.
So another thing that we thought is that the water, that not the water, inside the cube environment, that inside the 64 has the same environment like the not intensities, you know, like the office, right? Like the shadow that goes from the resonate from the Nassim to the office is the same as we have in here. So we can detect with this we detect a lot of things. We can explain later. No?
But also, what was happening at cosmological information that could have been detected by the aquarium and the resonator. That day, also on the equinox, we had a solar flare directed to Earth, not a very big one, but even 4.8 can give us a lot of energy, protons and electrons, influx entering the planet. What else was happening? These are the solar flares that were the solar vortex that were in the sun, and that could be also portals or vortex. And on the equinox, we were receiving those vortex from the sun were creating two cyclones in the very strong cycle for category 4.
Yeah,
so that's also what's happening at cosmological levels.
Mm-hmm. Another date that is very important is when the Mayotte, no, in Mayotte,
The Mayotte earthquake.
earthquake, no, that something happening there.
It started in Mayotte and then it repeated all around the world. And this is registered in the National Geographic, if you're interested. But also the same day, at the same time, in Mexico, we were registering very high cosmic ray alerts. And at the same time that the Mayotte earthquake and the cosmic ray alert was happening, our device in the World Trade Center blew up.
Blew up, yeah, it's I don't know why they blew up, because you can see the activity change, but when we tried to measure again, it was the same. So something in the configuration, I have to see what happened with the Bio-Well, but something, the energy is something to.
It was a very powerful
strong.
energy that many things happened around the world, but also that's a talk for another day.
Yeah, and the other, when we go with Nassim to the pyramids, you can see here, this is the hotel we're taking. They cannot let us inside the Bio-Well and the computer and all the things that you need. So we put it in the hotel, the Sputnik. You can see the difference, the distance from the hotel to the pyramid. And as I tell you before, in the beginning of the presentation, that the measurement, the distance from the pyramids is too far. So there's no way, that the Bio-Well can detect if you do something inside the pyramids. But
unless it's a very big thing and the energy expands all the way to the where we have the Bio-Well.
yeah, so we go inside the pyramid with all the technology of Nassim, and the graph in the hotel detects the blue line. That blue line is very difficult, only with a resonator and in some very few spots that you can detect it. But in here in a room, no, we detect it there, and we have an app that is alert a map. That day is the same. Is from Egypt. Something happened there, no?
This is also a long story for another day, but when we registered the blue hypoactive, we were 180 people entering by groups. So it was in specific times happened that this was detected. So we also have a correlation of what was happening externally, not only internally.
Mm-hmm. Another
event we have mentioned.
Yeah.
When our grandson was born, we were there. It was a home birth. So, of course, as scientists, we talked to our daughter and asked her, can we measure? And she said, okay, I can't help it. So it was very interesting because, no.
Well, the graph is the same, the intensity, and 22 days, no? 22 days that we measure. So the interesting that when I see the first time the graph, I see the blue lines again. So say what happened there, because Kai borns in the 13th, no?
March 13th.
March 13th. So you can see that when it's in the belly, no, something going there, then normal days, and then
he was born,
no?
Yeah.
So about 20 days, no, like 20 days before, something happening in that time with the baby, no? Special energy, I don't know.
Then we had the chance to measure another home birth with our neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Different methods.
Yeah, but in this graph is hours. There are 5 days in this case, the 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So, and you can see the 0 is 0 hours, and then 6, 12, 18, and then 0. So you can see here the blue lines again, no? Our house from our neighbor is about 50 feet, no?
Mm-hmm.
From the aquarium that we measure these graphs. So you can see here it's about the same pattern, no? Like 15 days before, the blue lines, the hypoactive against shows, no? He burns,
He was born.
he was born on the 3rd of December at 11, no, at 1 o'clock in the day, no?
So we don't know what we're measuring, but Plato used to say that when a soul enters a body, they open a vortex in the universe and they take an imprint of the information in that vortex where the sun and the moon and the planets are, and that will determine kind of part of the personality that this body will have. And so the vortex opens at certain time so that the soul will descend and enter the body. Then in the indigenous cultures, also they say that when the mother is going to give birth, she goes and opens a portal and brings the body down so she can give birth to the baby. So are we measuring this? Are these vortex? Are these portals? We don't know, but we're measuring them.
Yeah, and then we have to measure more
Home
like
births.
home births like that to have a nice explanation. This is only like a hypothesis because we measure and then we see the graphs and we say, okay, that's it. That's the way all the graphs that we have presented to you right now, we can.
Our mind always tries to correlate and give an explanation to see if some people before us have made an hypothesis, and so that maybe that's what we're measuring.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is the water. No, the water is basic.
Yeah, we were inspired by Dr. Krakow to study water, and also by Dr. Jerry Pollack. So Jerry Pollack says the 4th phase of water, no, easy water. So this is very structured water. The information is very specific. We won't talk a lot of that because there's not enough time. But indigenous cultures also say that all water is sacred, but there is such a thing as sacred waters. And sacred waters are where elders go and clean their healing tools, their feathers, they do the payments, they do special prayers for the planet. So when they explain to us what sacred waters are, is the most similar thing we can correlate to the 4th phase of water or the easy water.
Mm-hmm. So when every travel that we make we measure the water. Is the water from Croatia, no?
From Bosnia, from
Bosnia pyramids, and you can see how the activity of that water goes, no? The other one that for me is the most important is in Egypt. We go to a temple in the night, so I take water from the river. No, I measure. You can see this graph. You can see how it goes, like the circadian cycle. No, it's beautiful, all ring. No, like meditation. This is the other one that is World Trade Center. The activity there is very high, so that's the water in there. And again, we take water inside the pyramid that day, so we decide not to drink it before we decide to measure, and again appear the blue line.
Almost at the same time where we detect the energy change outside the pyramid, we also detected inside the pyramid through the water.
The water, so well, this is it. I think the time is right now. So thank you very much, and that's later we can share more about all these experiments.
Oh my goodness, this was such amazing information. Thank you so much for your time. That was absolutely amazing. Just so many ideas, so many ways to think about, to do new research and to add into what you guys are doing. It was so amazing. It was such a pleasure to have you guys here. Extremely valuable information, and we'll definitely have more sessions so we can introduce the rest that you guys have done. We can share it with everybody around the world. And this video will be posted on YouTube, so we can share it with a lot of other people to take advantage of this video and the information that we shared here. And if you want to share, did you share your information? If somebody wants to get in contact with you to ask you questions of where they can reach you? Adolfo, you're muted. Let me unmute you for a second. And if you want to share your information, I don't know if you put that up there for people.
Yeah, we put it in
The last slide has our email.
The email.
Yeah, when they can go back, they can take a look at that. So thank you again so much. Thank you everybody for being here today. That was so awesome. Thank you, Dimitri, for being here. Thank you, Dr. Krotkov, for spending your day here with us. And we're shutting this, closing this out just a little bit early. If anybody has any questions, we can, you have 10 minutes to answer questions. So go ahead and put your questions in the question section. Super interesting. It was great, really nice data research. Thanks. Many thanks to all. Thank you. So it seems like everybody really enjoyed the session. And thank you again so much for being here and sharing your light with everybody so we can make our planet with more bright photons and more intensity, right? Namaste, everyone. Have the most amazing day. And thank you again for being here. Bless you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
everyone.
you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.